Good morning, guys. Hey, everyone. I'm Sarah Howard, and welcome back to New England Next Gen. Today, we're asking a tough but necessary question. What are they hiding, or maybe even scarier, what don't we know because the audit never happened? This matters because it isn't just about politics. It's about accountability, transparency, and ultimately, how do we protect our children? Bear with me because of the wind. Part 1. What is an audit supposed to do? Let's start with the basics. In Massachusetts, the state auditor, right now that's Diana, is elected to hold agencies accountable. Audits check if taxpayer money is being spent properly, and if programs are working, and if the State Department is following the law. In other words, audits are the watchdog, and if the watchdog isn't allowed to bark, then the people lose their ability to know the truth. So, part 2 is the DESE audit. That was from 2021 to 2023. Recently, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the DESE, was audited by Auditor Diana, and here's what they found. That the DESE failed to track and investigate reports of child abuse and neglect by licensed educators. They also failed to resolve special education complaints within the required 60-day timeline, and they didn't consistently enforce corrective action plans for the districts. Charter school trustees weren't being properly monitored for conflicts of interest as well. So let that sink in. We're talking about failures that directly impact children's safety, families' trust, and students' education. So I ask again, how do we protect our children when even basic investigations and oversight are being ignored? So for the audits that never happened, here's the real kicker. While the DESE was audited, the Massachusetts Legislature itself has refused to be audited. Back in 2024, voters passed Question 1 overwhelmingly, giving the state auditor, Diana, explicit authority to audit the legislature. More than 70% of voters said, yes, audit them. And yet, here we are in 2025, and the legislature is still refusing. Leaders like Speaker Ron Mariano and Senate President Karen Spilka argue it violates separation of powers. They've even sought outside lawyers, paid with taxpayer money, to fight against being audited. So again, what are they hiding? And what don't we know because the audit never happened, even after the people of Massachusetts demanded it? And why this matters, especially for, us on our side, is for conservatives, this hits home because accountability and oversight is like number one. It's like when the government blocks audits, it screams waste, secrecy, and possible corruption. Parental rights, when abuse reports aren't tracked, it undermines parents' ability to trust schools. And Massachusetts spends more than $33,000 per student, the highest in the nation. Without oversight, how do we know that money is reaching classrooms instead of bloated bureaucracy? And transparency, blocking audits shows that government wants power without accountability, the opposite of what conservatives stand for. So why it matters to me is, as a mom, this breaks my heart, and as a student in Boston, it frustrates me. Because if the legislature can refuse oversight even after we voted for it, then, what example does that set for our schools and our campuses? If billions are being spent, why are classrooms still short-staffed? If reports of abuse go untracked, how do we know our kids are safe? If special ed complaints are being ignored, then how do we know that, our most vulnerable students aren't forgotten? When audits don't happen, the losers aren't the politicians. The losers are kids, families, and students like me, like you and I. So why does this matter for us as college students? Well, some of you might be wondering, what does this have to do with me? And here's the truth. If the K through 12 schools are mismanaged, then that affects us in higher education. Students arrive less prepared, which I've covered before, in the last episode, because of uncertified teachers and whatnot. Programs get stretched thinner, and the cost of fixing broken systems falls on us. It's also about money. State audits impact how education funding flows, including scholarships and financial aid programs like Mass Grant. When money is wasted and misused, students like us end up paying more out of pocket. And it's about accountability culture. So if lawmakers at the top can block oversight, what does that say about how transparent our colleges will be? Weak accountability filters down, and it's students who feel the effects. And finally, The biggest thing is it's about our voice. When 70% of voters say yes to the audits and leaders still refuse, it sent a message. Your voice doesn't matter. For students, that's the exact opposite of what democracy and education should be teaching us. And then before I close, I want to tie this into a faith factor. I brought in a Bible verse called Luke 16:10. It says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much." I'll think about that for a second. If our leaders can't be trusted with the little things, like following through on audits, investigating abuse reports, or responding to special ed complaints, how can we trust them with the big things like billions of dollars in education, funding, or the safety of our children? Faith tells us that trust is earned through honesty and accountability, and when leaders refuse oversight, they fail that test. For us as students and parents, it means we must keep asking hard questions, we must demand transparency, and we must live out the same principles ourselves, being faithful in the little things so we can be trusted with much. So here's how I'll leave you. Protecting our children and protecting the next generation, which is us, means demanding transparency. It means no to secrecy, no to excuses, and yes to accountability. So I want to hear from you. Do you think that the legislature is hiding something? Do you trust the way Massachusetts handles school oversight? And how would you answer the question, how do we protect our children? So you can send me your thoughts at New England Next Gen 2025 at Yahoo. You can also go to the website for the podcast, which is newenglandnextgen.com. YouTube this morning, of course, was taken down for a short while because apparently what I'm saying is hate speech, even though I'm literally just saying the exact truths of what I know. And anything I've said, you can find on ChatGPT, so it's not like it is a secret. But apparently me speaking about it is a hate speech, which I find, crazy to me. I mean, the very fact that I'm speaking and that makes people mad, and that YouTube wants to take me down for that, shows how much they want to silence us. So don't be silent. At the end, that's all I have to say. This is New England Next Gen, and thanks for listening. And remember, freedom and accountability goes hand in hand. Without them, the next generation pays the price. Have a great day, guys.